right, well, I guess I'll go ahead and get started as it looks like a few people are still sort of hopping in and out here. So I'm Ashley. I am a writer at the Vasculitis Foundation, and I'm excited to share this workshop with you, our Share Your Story workshop. A little bit about me. So I am a writer and a storyteller. I've written a handful of books. And I think what I love most, though, is connecting with you all in settings like this, where we use writing to share, and it's healing and cathartic and nourishing to share our stories together. So as I said at the beginning, I'm grateful that you're with me, and it's all of your presence that really makes this workshop what it is. So thanks for that. A little housekeeping for today. Like I said, for those of you who are on video, great. If anyone else wants to come on video, that's nice. As you can see, it's an intimate group, so we'll get a chance to just talk out loud and share. You don't have to go on video, but I would love to see your faces if you're comfortable with that. The other thing is we're going to be doing some short little writing prompts today, and a lot of them I'll just ask you to share your response in the chat. Like, they'll be very short, but if you want to grab a notebook or open a Word document or a Google Doc or something to keep your answers, because they'll help you develop your story, go ahead and you can grab that now or open that on your computer or a notes thing on your phone. What else do I want to tell you today? Well, I guess we started with where you're all from, but because we're going to be sharing our stories today, I thought we can use this icebreaker. In the chat, I'm going to ask you to put one word. If you can describe yourselves in one word, what would you say? Not to limit you. Maybe it's your one word for today, not for always. Oh, Jan's resilient. Yes. Unstoppable. Likeable. That's nice. We like that. Oh, you're rearranging your life, a moment maybe of transition or reprioritizing, Linda. I like that too. Anyone else have their word for today? Persistent. Beth is worried. It's okay to be worried. Yeah. Disciplined. Oh, community. That's a great word for today, Helen. Yeah, coming together in community. More resilience. Confused. Yeah, that's human. Confused. Thanks for sharing, Sarah. Well, if anyone else wants to throw a word in the chat, you can, but hopefully we'll be sharing lots of words about ourselves as we go. So the idea behind this workshop is that May, coming up, I think tomorrow, is Vasculitis Awareness Month. And we want to have this day of global impact, essentially, of sharing our stories all together across the globe. And that day is going to be May 7th. And we're going to encourage you on May 7th to share your story on social media. If you don't have social media, I have other options for you, so that's okay. You can still participate. So what we're going to do today is we're going to work on, I'm going to give you some examples of how to share your story and how to write it. I have a template that's basically Mad Libs. You can just fill in the blank if you want to keep it simple, or we'll do some prompts that you can build your story. So we're going to practice developing our story. And then again, the idea is on May 7th that you'll share your story on social media to create this day of impact and awareness raising around vasculitis. I'm just looking in the chat, jumping back. We've got other words for the day: excuseless, flexible. That's an important one, right? You never know what life's going to bring you. So being flexible, Irene. Regina is grateful. It's beautiful. The other thing I want to share with you today is that this workshop is, of course, open to all, whether you've written something before or never written anything, you are welcome here. So my one rule is that we don't apologize for our writing. Trust that whatever comes out of you and lands on the literal or metaphorical page, it's exactly as it's meant to be. And because it's coming from your heart and coming from your truth, it will be beautiful and what it's meant to be. So I'm excited to see what comes out today. I want to sort of begin by talking about why stories matter. Why does this even matter? Like, why are we even doing this? And I should preface this by saying it, as I ask any of these questions, because we are a small group, you are welcome to unmute yourself and answer that way. So feel comfortable doing that. If you want to put an answer in a chat, that's great too. But again, we're a small group, so let's just connect and feel free to just jump right on in. So back to what I was saying, I want to look at like why stories matter. So I'm curious for those of you who are here, like, why did you come today? Why did you think it was important to share your story? When it comes to like raising awareness, this is, I imagine, personal to you. Why does this matter to you? Or why do stories matter?
Hi, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon. My name is Mike Menino. I've had GPA since 1998. It's important for me to share my story because, when I got diagnosed, there was no internet search, Google. I didn't know anybody with my disease for a very long time. So if I could help spread awareness and help someone struggling, especially when they're first diagnosed, I think it'll be helpful to me as well and the community.
Oh, I love that, Mike. And I think it's so true that sometimes we can feel so alone in our experience, especially for those of you living with a rare disease. And then when you see someone else's story and you find a little piece of yourself in it, you're like, oh, it doesn't take away what you're going through, but there's this comfort of like, oh, I'm not the only one. Other people are walking this journey. Thanks for sharing that. I see we have some answers in the chat too. Linda, sharing your story helps us vent, helps us focus, helps us feel part of something larger. Yeah, it's that connection too, that we're creating these links on May 7th across the globe of people living with this disease. We're sort of lighting it up and showing what it really looks like and all the faces of this disease. Irene said, I want to be able to share my story so that I get more patients connected. Yeah, again, it goes back to that connection that somehow having community, I forget who, Helen maybe was the word community today, is healing, even if, regardless of whatever else is happening. Loopy, yeah, go ahead. You have your hand raised. Oh, you're on mute though. Oh, there you go. Perfect. Can anyone else? I can't hear her.
I can't hear her.
Why your mic maybe is not working, Loopy. You're still muted. I see you're talking. You were unmuted before, but for some reason your mic wasn't working. Maybe Jen, my colleague Jen Wages, who's here, you can send her how to check her microphone. So Libby, we're going to come back to you. Hopefully we can Jen can connect with you in the chat and help you with your microphone. And then I want to hear what you have to say. Did someone else unmute or have their hand raised? Oh, Nick, how do I say your name?
Nicole.
Oh, Nicole. Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
Nicole.
it just has a weird spelling.
No, that's great.
I chose to join today. I've shared my story for a couple of years. I was diagnosed with IgA vasculitis in 2018, and it took me to get super, super sick before I could get a diagnosis and actually end up hospitalized before they would do a biopsy. But the reason why I feel it is so important is a few weeks ago, a lady had reached out to me by messenger on Facebook and had said that she had seen my story on the Vasculitis Foundation and that she had just lost her husband. And she was young. This was a young family, and that they notified her, or they told her he had vasculitis literally right before he had passed away. So she had no time to process it. She had no time to figure out symptoms and try and get treatment and that kind of thing. She reached out to me and said that I had many symptoms that her husband had, and she just was looking for answers. She couldn't change it. He's gone. But she just wanted, I don't want to say closure, but just wanted answers to what went wrong and what they could have done differently. And so when I got sick, I have not only vasculitis, but I have Ehlers-Danlos and a Chiari malformation. All of this came pretty much almost at one time. So my thought process is if I can put myself out into the community and be able to share my story, maybe if somebody else comes up with a similar diagnosis, they don't have to be so scared that there's people that share this with them. Unfortunately, I wish none of us had it, but at least if we do, we're not doing it alone.
Oh, I'm so glad you shared, and it's a reminder that you never know how your story is going to land and impact someone else and in what way. I'm actually reading a book of I'm like I can't remember. I'm like, where's my book? It's called Rebel Health. It's about like the power of community and creating innovation in healthcare. That like when we come together and share our stories, new ideas come out that maybe doctors don't even know about or researchers, because it's the real lived experience. So there's something about that as well.
Well, and vasculitis is so misdiagnosed. I
Yeah.
have had so many doctors say to me, "Well, what does that do? What is that? How does that work?" And it's like, you're a doctor. But I mean, there's a million things. So I mean, it's our job to educate not only other individuals that could be diagnosed, but also the medical professionals,
And I'm
because
so glad. Oh, yeah, I'm so glad you
I
said
don't
that,
know.
Nicole. The storytelling, it's as we talked about, and Mike said, it's going to make people who are going through this feel less alone, and of course that matters. And it's also raising awareness amongst people who don't know what it's like, or even doctors and researchers or a primary care physician who, they have to be trained to know everything. How could they possibly know all of the things? But a delayed diagnosis, like we saw with that person who reached out to you, can be really devastating. And Twain, I'm going to come to you in a second. I see you have your hand raised. I just want to look at some of the answers in the chat, because I skipped over some of those. Sarah said the VF is a hard road, or vasculitis is a hard road at the start, and can help others feel less alone. That matters. Regina can relate to what Mike said about helping and inspiring others, especially those who are newly diagnosed. Yeah, and Beth, I feel like you're tapping into what we were just saying, that a lot of your family and friends don't understand what we're going through. So by sharing, it's like, oh, I kind of get a picture of this. And sometimes sharing facts, while facts matter, doesn't land the same way. When we share a story, it has these emotions to them and it starts hitting us differently. Like if you think about your favorite book or your favorite movie, it probably like remains with you because there was some like emotional connection to it. Even if you didn't go through the same thing as the character in that book or movie, there's something human that draws us together. Let's see. Elena says she's a physician who was recently diagnosed with vasculitis, and experiencing the patient side of healthcare has been eye-opening, and I've changed some of how I practice. So sharing these insights with colleagues, I love that. I'm so grateful that you're here, Elena, and can share these insights with your colleagues. And Sarah said also to encourage others who are newly diagnosed that there's good life possible with vasculitis. So it can feel apocalyptic, right? When you're first diagnosed, and overwhelming and like, oh my gosh, what does this mean? But to remind them that you can still live a full life. Antoine, sorry, your hand's up. Go ahead.
Oh, it's actually pronounced Antoine.
Oh, Antoine, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So I think through your discussion, you hit up on a lot of points I was going to mention, but I'll just add a couple in the area of education, especially in the medical profession. My orthopedic doctor, he heard of vasculitis, but his first question to me is like, wow, if I need to do something to you, like a surgery on your knee or something, what does that look like? How is it going to impact you? What do I need to know? And I'm like, but you're the doctor. Shouldn't you know this? And so he's like, but I don't treat vasculitis, or yeah, I've never had a patient with it. So yeah, and so you have those conversations. The education part is important, just in the medical community and in the research. We talk about cures for other diseases like cancer and things like that. But vasculitis, the first time I heard it was Vasca who? I mean, what is that? Right? And so to be diagnosed with it and then to live with it, and that's why I put in my word was excuseless. I mean, I don't lead. I mean, I don't live an excuseless life for not taking a break. When you're tired, you have to take a break, or you have to change things, or you have to cancel plans. And so, I just unapologetically say it's the new way of how I have to live my life, but I'm still going to live it but I'm not going to let vasculitis live it for me. I'm not going to box myself in. I'm not going to live life because I have vasculitis. I'm going to continue to live life. I'm going to live it to the fullest, but I'm going to be smart about it and how I navigate vasculitis too. I know when I need to take breaks. I know I need to take medicine. I know when I need to do these things, but I'm not going to let those things dictate to me what I can and can't do. So that's what it means for me to tell a story.
Yeah, and I think that's brilliant. You're tapping into a piece of acceptance. And I don't mean like you just like lie back and don't, fight or advocate or, do the things that are necessary for yourself, but how do you learn to live with something that's completely forcing you to modify your life, of just kind of saying, okay, I'm going to make these changes and I'm still going to live as fully as I can. So I love that.
Yeah, it's like an unwelcome visitor. I mean, I didn't
Yeah,
invite it. It just showed up in my life. So you have to accommodate me. I'm not going to accommodate you.
I feel like you already have your story right here. It sounds very poetic, Antoine. I like it. Lots of metaphors. And Linda, said that we have this new shirt for the VF for raising vasculitis, and it's something like vasculitis what or vasculitis who? I forget. So you exactly. Oh, and Jen put the link in the chat for that. So thank you. Well, we'll have a chance to keep sharing as we go. But thank you for those answers and letting us know, like, why do stories matter? What I want to do now is we're going to just jump into the template that you can use to write your story and some examples, and then we'll play. We'll get a chance to do a little bit of, writing. Sorry, I'm jumping. Irene, if you can see her box, just held up the shirt. There we go. Vasculitis. Wait, what? The idea that's at the back of the shirt. So if you're like standing online at the grocery store, people can scan the QR code and go to the VF's website and learn what it is. So you can be a walking advertisement or educator without having to say anything. Thanks for sharing that, Irene. You already got yours. Okay, so like I said, when it comes to sharing your story on May 7th, or wherever you want to share it, but that's our day. You can do whatever you want. You can write it however you want. Go rogue. It could be a poem. It can be a video, however you want to do it. If you want some support or inspiration, we have templates that are just like fill in the blank. So I'm going to share those templates just so you can get an idea. And then again, you can take it from there. You can either use that exactly, or you can, toss that out and do your own thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. It's making me share my desktop, but let's see. Ooh, here we go. And also, I'm going to ask Jen, can you put this link in the chat? Do you have it? If not, I can grab it. Okay,
I can grab it. I don't have it handy, but I'll grab it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, just checking that. All right, so what I have here are multiple templates for different people depending on where you fall into the vasculitis ecosystem. We have 2 templates that you can use if you're a person living with vasculitis. They're just slightly different. They offer a different kind of like opening and prompt. And we'll go through them. There's one template if you're a caregiver or a care partner you want to share with your loved ones because, when you're living with vasculitis, your whole family's affected, your loved ones are affected too, so they might want to share their story and raise awareness in that way. And then we also have, almost like what Nicole was touching on, we've had lots of people reach out to us where their loved one passed away with vasculitis, but they, weren't diagnosed in time or something like that, but they feel a calling to raise awareness and continue to share. So if that happens to be you, or someone like that, this is an option for them. What we would like for you to do on this day of action on May 7th is to tag the Vasculitis Foundation on social media. And again, we'll send this out to you so you have these templates yourself. So this way we'll get a notification that you shared and we can reshare it, all these stories. And also, if you can use this hashtag, it's VAM Vasculitis Awareness Month 2024. We'll be posting with that hashtag all month long, but if people are searching and they find your story and they're like, oh, I want to learn more, they can click that hashtag and it'll open up everyone else's stories too, as long as we're all using it. Again, I know that's a lot of information at once, but it's all in this template here. And if you have questions, I'm going to put my email in the chat at the end. Feel free to reach out at any point. So I'll just go through these quickly just to give you an idea, and then we'll go through some examples. I guess I'll start with the first one, the first example. Again, you can fill this in exactly or use it as inspiration. This is for a person living with vasculitis. So it says, I'm a rare disease warrior. Every day I live with, and then you insert what type of vasculitis, so GPA, MPA, etc., which is a rare autoimmune disease. Living with vasculitis, and then insert in the blank, is, here is an example, is physically and emotionally exhausting, is isolating, whatever you want to describe what it's like to live with vasculitis. Because it is so rare, too often vasculitis is misdiagnosed for months or even years, leading to organ damage. There's no cure for vasculitis, but it can be treated. Some of these medications have side effects like, and you can insert things that you or your loved one, or in this case, you have experienced. The hardest part of living with vasculitis is, fill in the blank. As the number of people living with vasculitis is expected to rise, people like me need support now more than ever. This last paragraph is, as with everything in this post, is completely optional. Because it is Vasculitis Awareness Month, we wanted to give people who read this like, okay, now what do I do? Like, what do I do with this information? This is something new I learned. So it's a call to action. We're inviting them to go to the VF's website, and if they feel called to make a donation to support people like you. Again, you can include this. You don't have to include this. You can include your own call to action. What this one says is the Vasculitis Foundation, and you can insert our social media tag, has been a lifeline for people like me. They walk alongside everyone impacted by the disease, providing reliable, empowering education and funding research for better treatments and a cure. You can make a difference for people like me all around the world by giving to the VF today. And there's a link to donate, and there's that hashtag. So if you wanted, and I'll show you an example, you can use this exact template, fill in the blank, and you're good to go. Or you can change this up and use it as inspiration. The second one, I'll just read the beginning of it. It just changes it another option to share your story. It begins, the first thought that raced through my mind when I was diagnosed with vasculitis, a rare autoimmune disease, was a kind of starting there of like, what was it like sitting in the doctor's office receiving a diagnosis that maybe you'd never even heard of vasculitis before? So just kind of bringing people immediately into that whirlwind experience. And then similar, like what it's like to live with vasculitis. You can share different things you've gone through. I've been through multiple hospital stays or months of high-dose steroids, or I've experienced loneliness, whatever it might be, to tell them something personal about you and your journey. And then again, there's a call to action that you can or cannot include. Again, just to go through these quickly, I'm just making sure, does anyone have a question for me? Okay, thanks, Jen. You put in the templates. And if you do have a question at any point during this, or this is confusing, just unmute yourself and ask. I can't see everyone right now, but just go for it. So if you are a care partner, whether it's a spouse, an adult child, another family member, a friend, someone living with vasculitis, you can use this template if you'd like. So we have a couple options depending on where in the world you are. It sounds like most people today on this call are in the US. So the first option to opening your story is, I am one of nearly 40 million caregivers across the United States. And when I say caregivers, these are everyone who identifies as a caregiver, not just for vasculitis. That's why the number is so high. 40 million caregivers across the United States, or we have an option for around the globe. In insert year 2020, my husband, Joe, was diagnosed with insert type of vasculitis. So I'm just filling in the blanks there. Living with vasculitis is, fill in the blank. My, again, husband has gone through, insert different things they've gone through. Currently, there's no cure. And then something a little bit more personal. The hardest part of being a caregiver to Joe is, finish the sentence. As the number of people living with vasculitis is expected to rise, people like me and Joe need support now more than ever. And then there's a call to action. I include this, and it's the same for people living with vasculitis. I've spoken to someone the other day who's a care partner, and she said, like, caring for her husband and partner, being a partner to her husband with a rare disease is like a secret burden. She feels like she's carrying this thing that, unless you're another care partner, you don't really know. And she feels like it can be crushing in the silence of it. And so feeling like she wants a space to share her story. But it's the same thing if you're living with a rare disease. It can feel like this invisible thing that people don't understand. And so these stories hopefully give an option for us to dispel myths and to share. I'm not going to go through the rest. Again, a loved one who passed away with vasculitis, if you want to use that template, you can. Before I go on and give some examples, I just want to check in with you all. I know I went through that quickly. Are there questions about that? Does that make sense?
I wanted to know if she could do stuff in English and Spanish.
Yeah, of course. Whatever language you want to do this in is great. Again, it's a global thing, so please, if your first language is not English, you can share in whatever language is most comfortable for you. Antoine, sorry, you had asked why the number of cases is expected to rise. I'm not a scientist, and I might call on Jen Wages. Some things I have heard about are with COVID, that perhaps it's going to stir up more autoimmune conditions than just because we didn't quite know what it was. We still are kind of figuring that out. That's a reason. Jen, do you have a better answer for that?
I was going to say, well, so a lot of autoimmune they find are triggered by viral infections. And so since COVID was a viral infection, it may trigger more autoimmune. I mean, that's just one trigger. A lot of times you can't trace it back specifically. And secondly, I do feel that just improvement in awareness has led to improvement in diagnosis. And so some of it is also just people who have been told their whole lives, maybe that they just have asthma and killer sinus issues, finally finding out what they really have. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's sort of, Irene mentioned too, it's sometimes awareness too, that now more people know, so they're getting the proper diagnosis as well. Carmen, I'm going to come to you in a second. I saw your question. You can do a video as well. You can do a video in English or Spanish or any language. Do you have anything else you want to add? Or does that cover it?
No, they were talking about the cases increasing, but also I go to Mayo Clinic as well, and the situation with the COVID that affected, the body. Usually it causes blood clots in people who has, like me, HSP, which is inflammation in the blood, in the veins. The blood clots, the increase in the blood clots due to COVID has caused more issues. When I went to Dominican Republic, it was very different because they knew about vasculitis more than here. Mm-hmm. So when I went over there 4 weeks ago, they were able to find stuff that they were not even finding here. And it was that I opened my eyes to how more this disease affect the body. When I went over there, due to they do testing like right down there. Usually the testing is done by doctor instead of technicians. So they were able to see more things than here in US. I'm scheduled to go to Korea because in Korea they have vasculitis clinics over there. So in March next year, I hope to go. I'm looking for more information because I'm allergic to both medication. So it's been very, very difficult for me because I cannot use medication at all for the vasculitis. So I had to learn other ways how to deal with it. I put in my remission with other treatments, natural treatments, but it's been very, very difficult. What it helped me is just to look more information outside United States and bring it to United States because a lot of doctors, they don't know what vasculitis is and how it affects the body. So it's very scary sometimes when you go to a doctor and they don't know, they don't have the information. So that's why I wanted to do it in Korean, in Spanish, and English. Yeah. So that way it can reach more people. And they also can, because it's not a lot of information out there, and that's why I wanted to share with other people as well. But yeah, the increment cases is to what I heard besides the infections is also because of the blood clots.
Well, thanks for sharing, Carmen. I'm sorry it's been so rough for you lately, struggling to get answers. And again, I think this is another reason why we do this and why we want to share our stories. There's collective power amongst you right here. Beyond doctors, like you all are experiencing things that when you sort of come together, you're like, oh, someone else has this weird, rare thing that my doctor doesn't quite understand either, or someone else is allergic to this medication. And you kind of use each other to create these innovations, and hopefully it raises visibility, including with doctors and researchers and all of that. So yeah, thank you for sharing, Carmen. What I'm going to do now is we're going to go through quickly an example or two using the template. And then, like I said, we'll play a little bit and do a little bit of writing ourselves. What I'm going to do right now, I'm going to put in the chat, it's just a Google Doc. I'm going to share my screen. So if you can't open this, that's okay. But if you do have access to Google Docs and you want some of these examples to rely on in the future, you can use this link. It should be open to everyone. All right, so I'm gonna, oh, there we go. I can share this. Everyone can see this? Yes. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna scroll down actually. So we have a couple, what I'm gonna do actually is afterwards, we're gonna do some like prompts that allow you to develop a story that is not necessarily in the format of the template. So I'm gonna show you that example afterwards of someone who did it that way if you want a little bit more freedom. But just to begin, I think, let's see, we've got in this document, there's an example from a care partner who followed the template exactly. And there's an example of a person living with vasculitis. I think we'll just go through this one, but you have this document. And if, again, you want to go through all the examples on here on your own, please do so. So I will read this one. So this is from Ruth, who's living with vasculitis. And she used the template, but sort of ad-libbed a little bit too and made it her own. So she said, I'm a rare disease warrior. Every day I live with, I'm going to say HUVS, a rare autoimmune disease. Living with vasculitis is a roller coaster of emotions, symptoms, and decisions. It's difficult at first to navigate and find the correct team of providers. It feels confusing and isolating because most everyone around you has never heard of this disease, and it looks at you with a blank stare when you state yet another complicated name for one of your diseases. You may look fine on the outside and may see what looks like a simple rash. I found the invisible aspect of the illness to be the most frustrating. Because it is so rare, too often vasculitis is misdiagnosed for months or even years, leading to organ damage. There's no cure for vasculitis, but it can be treated. Some of these medications have side effects such as nausea, vomiting, brain fog, mouth ulcers, weight gain, weakened bones, heightened risk of infection, and even a higher risk of developing cancer. The hardest part of living with vasculitis for me is the endless hurdles within the healthcare system. Not being able to get the necessary medication, finding quality healthcare, having to fight to maintain that level of care, etc. As the number of people living with vasculitis is expected to rise, people like me need support now than ever. And then she puts our call to action where she says it's been a lifeline for her, the VF, and people can donate. Again, that's optional. Does anyone just for a moment want to respond to anything Ruth said in here, something you relate to, you liked, you didn't like, you have questions about? And if you do, you can just unmute yourself and go for it.
I think the point she made about the invisible aspect is really key, because you may look fine on the outside and you may feel fine on the outside, but the inside, it could be a hot mess, to use that phrase. So I like that part that she put in there. And then the care about the medical, it is good. It's hard to get a good medical team, and then if you get that good medical team, it's hard to keep them, because in the medical profession, people are retiring, and so it becomes difficult to replace doctors that you got in a connection with, and then you find out they're retiring, then it becomes like, okay, who's the next person? Where there is no next person, because a lot of physicians don't treat for vasculitis. So I like those 2 points she made in that.
Yeah, and I think the invisible point, even just for friends, like who might think like you look fine and then you're canceling going to dinner or canceling something last minute and might not understand it. Regina, I'm going to go to you next and then Lucy.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that mine came on so quickly that I was really out of it, and had 3 middle school age kids. So my husband and my sister were really trying to navigate, and I was in New Jersey and was lucky enough to get to New York City. there are so many side effects, the nausea, the vomiting. But for me, the weakened bones as I tripped and then broke both my wrists 2 years later was another interesting complication.
Yeah, and people might have no idea that that's something that you can go through because of what's happening with vasculitis. Loopy, do you want to share?
Yes, hopefully everyone can hear me now.
Yes.
Oh, excellent. Okay. Well, I too, what resonates with me is the fact that when people see you, they think you look okay, you look fine. And the guilt that comes with canceling, I'm afraid to make commitments now, family commitments, because, I depending on the day, and I call it a challenging day that I may have, and I'm not able to make it. So I just, I try to explain as best as I can that with this disease, it's a day to day. And some days are really good days and weeks. And then, it could be 2 or 3 days where it's just not. So that resonates with me very much so. And also the fact that people don't know what this disease is. So I'm all on board about telling as many people as we can and getting the word out and communicating, what this is, because far too long, the people actually, they died from it because, 20 years ago, if you had it, I think the life expectancy was a year because, no one knew about it and people were dying. But I think we've made progress in the field so much that, one of the articles that I read was that a doctor actually had this disease and it prompted her to actually get, really change her line of study and dedicated her, medical career to this disease and getting the word out. And so that communication is communication. I think that's really key.
Yeah, I agree. And I think maybe that what you said earlier about that guilt is something that you can include in your story if you feel called to, because I think that's a very human thing that, people will relate to that. I think that sense of honesty and courage in sharing what it's like is magnetic. People will be drawn in and can relate. Maybe they don't have that guilt of canceling in the same way, but they'll feel that. So yeah, I appreciate that honesty. Carmen, you have your hand raised.
Yes, for me, I used to practice and compete dancing on my spare time. And in 2013, I broke my back and no doctor was able to find it until 2014. So I had my back broken for 1 year.
Wow.
So when I went finally to 5 doctors, I went finally to Vanderbilt. They found it in an x-ray because I bent it. They thought out of the box. That's the thing with this disease. You have to think out of the box. All the tests, it has to be out of the box. When you go, I go to the ER, I go to the ER all the time. And then, because now they say my heart is good, but around my heart is all messed up. But then when I go to the ER, I have to tell them, this is what you want to do. This is the test that I need. I have to be very firm because I know the test that I need to see, and they get mad. I'm allergic now to the CT contrast. I had a blood clot in my arm because they messed up my artery, checking my heart. I went, no, you good. I said, doctor, my arm is hurting. They don't listen to you sometimes. So it's very hard to advocate for yourself. And thank God that when I went to the ER, they checked my vein and said, no, you don't have anything. My arm was swollen. So I said, look, when they do go in, it's not through the vein, it's through the artery. So they did another test, another sonogram, and I had a blood clot in my arm. So you see, you have to trust in your body. Don't be scared to push, because I have been able to push. I don't mind if they get mad at me. That's okay, And no matter that I was telling him that I was very allergic to the CT contrast. He wanted me to do a CT contrast. I said, absolutely not. So it's very important for us to be in our toes when it comes to our bodies and listen to it. I know, like, I went to UAB last Saturday and they was like, oh, nothing is with you, nothing is there. When I checked the last myself, I had pancreatitis, so that's why it's so important to push. I go every single place. I go to UVA for one thing. I go to Mayo to another thing. So when I went to Vanderbilt, I had 3 back surgeries. I already had the disease, but I didn't know until 2018. Yeah. So it took a while to find it. So that's the only thing I can tell you guys. It's a lot of things that it can be done, like besides medication. Medication is good, but after medication, others, like me, I cannot even take medication because I'm allergic to it. But it's a lot of other treatments out there that is your body. Like I would say, look, I gained 100 pounds. I would say I would never, I hated myself. So I had to learn how to love myself, And when in that process that I start loving myself, I had to focus, okay, what I had to do. They want to do surgery in my stomach so I can lose the weight. I said, the gastro was saying, no, you cannot do that. And it was a fight between doctors. Finally, my PCM was like, okay, let's do this so you can help, lose weight. I just lost 80 pounds less than 1 year. So
yes, I think what you're saying, Carmen, I love the self-love aspect, because things about your body can change and it can be hard to find that new sense of peace and love and acceptance. But that advocacy piece too, I wish you didn't have to advocate for yourself so fiercely. And yet it is a thing that's real that lots of people don't know. And that could also be, if you wanted to share that as part of your story, to help other people living with vasculitis, and just to let the regular world know, like, this is what you go to when you go to the hospital, rather than feeling like, oh, I can just rely on the doctors completely. You're like, I have to push for what I need, and I have to learn to listen to my body, which is a very hard skill. So thank you for sharing that. So let's see, we only have about 15 minutes left. So I think we'll, again, if you want to access these examples, you can go through. There are a few more on this page. But I think we should play a little bit. So when I say play, I have a few writing prompts, and they're very short. Like, they're things that you can answer in kind of a sentence or a word or whatever. If you want to write more, you are more than welcome to. So as I share them with you, you can put your answer in the chat if you want. You can, that's probably the best way to put it. If you want to jot it down in a notebook first and then put it in the chat, that would be great too. So the first prompt that I want, and because again, you can use these to sort of pull into your story. The first prompt is just going to be, I am ... This is an opportunity to show who you are beyond vasculitis. Like, I have vasculitis and I'm all these things. Or like when I gave this prompt to several people, I got answers like this. I am ... So I am, and you look fine, purgatory. I'm tired, and I don't think I admit that to myself enough. I'm creative. I'm resilient. I'm scared, and I realize it's okay to be scared. And I love Brandy already in the chat. I am more than my diagnosis. Yeah. Nicole, I am more than a disease. Does anyone else have something they want to finish that sentence? I am ... Trina, I'm thankful. It can be hard sometimes when you're having, as Lucy says, challenging days, but sometimes falling in that gratitude reminds you of what you have. Regina, I'm going to keep fighting. Yeah, like, what a rallying call. You're telling a story and it's like, these are all the things that are happening, but I'm going to keep fighting. Carmen, I am beautiful and I matter. That's like a mantra you can repeat to yourself. Yeah. Sharon, I am still alive. Yeah, I forget who was saying that, like, 20 years ago with this disease might have been a different prognosis for people who...
Well, I don't know how to raise my hand on this thing.
Oh, you can just jump in, Sharon.
Jumping
yeah.
in. I started feeling ill the end of April last year. And it started in my sinuses, which is very typical. And of course, they said, "Oh, you have sinus infection. We'll treat you with this." Well, then it went on to other things. I ended up going to the hospital several times, and finally I entered the hospital in October, almost dead. I went through 2 blood transfusions, 3 rounds of, what is it that, and I'm sorry, because I'm still recovering. 3 rounds of what, when your kidneys fail, what do they do? Dialysis. And then 5 rounds of plasma transfer. And then I finally had infusions. By then, my body was a total mess. So I'm very thankful, I guess, to be alive. And I'm just turned 74. So
happy birthday.
Prior to this, I led a really active, healthy life, and now I'm just a hot mess. And I try to keep my sense of humor, because that's, I think that's really important. And I was diagnosed with, finally, after they did 2 lung biopsies, then they finally did a kidney biopsy, and that's when they found out that it was GPA. So, and I mean, I was so out of it that I didn't even know. I had no awareness of what my diagnosis meant, other than hopefully I don't have to be on dialysis.
I want to jump in here, because Sharon, I feel like what you just shared right here, first of all, thank you for sharing. And second of all, you just spoke your story aloud. I mean, that whole whirlwind of experience, other people hearing that, of just the things you've gone through. And then also that, the new sense of perspective you have on your life, which maybe you don't have every day. It's not always easy to be like, "Oh, I'm grateful to be here after I went through all of that." But I appreciate that. Carmen, Sharon, she's praying for you. I'm going to keep reading some of the answers in the chat. Antoine, I am fearless and I'm still here. Yeah, tapping into or connecting to what Sharon said, but I love the fearless. Regina, I'm going to live my life, like we talked about earlier. I still have the opportunity to live fully. Mike said, I'm always going to advocate for myself, which with a disease like this, you need to. Regina agrees, the sense of humor is key. And that's something also you can add, a light thing to your story. Just this is really hard. And sometimes I just need to laugh, or laughter is the best medicine. Jan is also fearless. That was also a nickname one of my favorite bosses gave me in my 20s, still applies. Go Jan. Yeah. To get a nickname that you're fearless, that's impressive. And Carmen's just asking in the chat, if you want to share your email address or send someone a message, you are welcome to do that in the chat, and people can choose whether they want to share emails or not. Okay, the next one is building on this, but changing it up slightly. So what happens when you add the word not after I am? I am not. It sort of gives this defiant, a little it changes the defiant quality. The examples I got when I asked some people are, I am not my disease. Vasculitis is only a part of me. I am not alone. I'm curious. I'm not just my disease. It's just a piece of you. Jan is not giving up. I'm not sick. I'm not weak. Yeah. Sometimes the continued answer I had when someone said I'm not weak is, when you see me slowly walking around my block, see my courage, see my fighting spirit, someone who's really active before, and they're like, no, see my strength in this. I'm not going down without a fight, Nicole. Trina, I'm not alone. I feel like, Trina, you embody that with your connection in this community. Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for sharing each of those. Let's see, what do I have next for you all? This, depending on who you are, I have 2 options. You can finish the sentence, living with vasculitis is like, or living with vasculitis is, or loving someone with vasculitis is, depending on if you're a care partner or not. So living with vasculitis is ... What would you say after that? You can do a metaphor after it. You can just be straightforward, like it's exhausting, or it's whatever it might be for you. Yeah, Regina, you had the example I had in mind. Living with vasculitis can be a roller coaster. It's unpredictable. Nicole says it's a challenge. Brenda says it's not easy. And I think it's important to admit that sometimes. Like, we're in a culture that's sometimes like hustle and grind. And if you just dream hard enough or fight hard enough, you'll be fine. But it's not easy. Doing this is not easy. Helen, it's a never-ending battle. Yeah, you don't know, there is no cure at the moment. It's unpredictable, as someone else had said. Let's see. I like this. Antoine, living with vasculitis is like a box of chocolate. Never know what to expect. That's great. Great metaphor. And also, I think might make someone smile now. Like, who wants, like, do you want chocolate now? Loving someone with vasculitis is constant vigilance. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Beth. I'm still thinking about the chocolates, though. This is great. And these, if you remember, that was one of the prompts or one of the options in our storytelling template. You fill in the blank and you tell people what's it like to live with vasculitis. Loopy says it was unexpected and was not planned for in my dreams and my future. I think that's such an important one. And I think lots of people can relate to that, but particularly people with a disease like this, is like you have these dreams of what your future will be, or you're leading a certain life, and then this unwelcome, unbidden thing comes in, and you have to like reimagine your sense of meaning and your sense of purpose and like what your path will look like going forward. Which, yeah, I feel like that's a big life lesson, a hard one. Jan, living with vasculitis has determined where I will retire. Until this I was considering a lot of places, but now I know, brought me clarity. And Jan, do you feel like that for like climate or support, or I'm just curious?
Because of my medical team.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it dictates different things of like maybe you wanted to retire somewhere else, but if you've got a good team, it's hard to find. Brenda says, I always find my sister watching me. Now I understand that it's always being vigilant. Yeah, and so even just by sharing these stories, like you're having your own revelations based on each other, which is really nice to see that connection. All right, we've got a few more minutes. Let's see, I've got a few more. The next one is about the invisibility of vasculitis or parts of vasculitis. So the prompt is, and I can also put this in the chat, but some parts of my vasculitis journey are invisible. What you can't see is, what are the pieces that you can't see? I'll just put that to, Brenda, what you can't see is I'm a fighter. I love that you went there. I was thinking like what you can't see is a certain symptom, but you're like, what you can't see is like that fighting spirit in me. Nicole, what you can't see is how everything on the inside feels broken. Yeah, you might look fine on the outside and then feel entirely different inside. Regina, this is important too. What you said, what you can't see is the fear. Yeah, I think we have to acknowledge the fear. And I love how some people talk today like, I'm fearless, and that is fantastic. And it's okay to like face the fear and then also be like, I'm going to move forward despite it anyway. Beth was, yeah, what you can't see is how afraid I am. And that's such the moment you read that, like you're sharing the story and someone reads that, that immediately like drops you down into your body. And like, I feel like time slows and you're drawn into the moment of like, oh, that like the honesty of living with fear. Sarah said, what you can't see is that I have so many concerns, not only what the treatment will be. Yeah, it goes beyond that. Jan, what you can't see is my anxiety about the long-term future. Linda, similar comment. What you can't see is that I'm a ticking time bomb. Powerful metaphor. Yeah. Mike, what you can't see is how much pain I'm in on the inside, because on the outside I look fine. Yeah, and I think that's such a hard thing. You're working, you're with friends, and you know your boss looks at you and like, oh, you're fine. What do you mean you need a day off tomorrow? Or you're exhausted or whatever. Yeah. Let's see. I'm going to do one more. I know we have 2 minutes. If you have to hop off the call, you can. I might go a few minutes over. I apologize about that. So the last one is, and this is long, but or longer. I'm resilient. I get through my hardest days by ... How what gets you through your hardest days? Is it a song, a person, a mantra, I don't know. What is it that you do to get through your hardest days? Oh, Brenda, I love that. My niece and nephew. Yeah, the people in our lives help carry us through. Oh, this is my preferred way, Sharon. Escaping by reading a good book. Yeah. Getting involved in someone else's story is
I
always
just
really
wait till
helpful.
it's bedtime and hope for a better day.
Right? And yeah, exactly. You can go somewhere else. Yeah, Regina, my friends and family and laughter. Jan, music, that's great. And my mantra, the time is now to determine what is really worth your energy. Oh, isn't that a great lesson when, or like an important lesson when you have vasculitis, like how you want to prioritize your energy. Nicole is giving into that emotion, crying, laughing, screaming, all of it. Then I pick myself back up and keep going. I think it's so important to find a healthy outlet for expressing what you're feeling because a lot can come up. So the fact that you allow yourself to have that moment is what helps you keep moving forward. That's really wise. Oh, Linda, sitting by my cat, who is my GCA buddy, reading, writing, playing music. Yeah, pets are really helpful. Oh, Brenda, The Big Bang Theory. That's a great one. That always makes me laugh. The TV show. Trina gets through by remembering my why and my children and seeing them grow up to be amazing young adults. I imagine you've done a wonderful job with them. And Carmen gets through her hardest days by loving me and treating myself with dignity. I love all these like self-love affirmations you have for us, Carmen. Linda gets through with gratitude. What I'm going to do now, really briefly, we'll probably go like 5 minutes over. If you can't stay, thank you for being here. I'm really grateful you all shared. I just want to share one person's example. They use the prompts as opposed to the template to pull together their story. So just to give you an example of that. And I know you all have these, but okay. So what I did here in the storytelling templates, this person pulled together the prompts. The prompts they used are in yellow. I didn't end up using this one, sorry. We didn't have time for that one, but you get the idea. So she said, I'm in You Look Fine purgatory. You may see me in the grocery store. You may see me in photos of my family on Facebook. You may see me eating my favorite linguine at the Italian restaurant in town, and you may remark, how good you look. But that's because much of what I experience with vasculitis is invisible. It feels like a secret burden I carry, and only those in the Vasculitis Club look at me knowingly, nodding and understanding. Living with vasculitis is daunting at times. We never know what's around the corner. I worry about the future. Will I be there to see our kids graduate from college? Will I watch my husband walk our Molly down the aisle? When we're finally empty nesters, will we ever get a chance to take that trip to Rome? I wish you could see the invisible parts of living with vasculitis. Some days it feels like overwhelming exhaustion. Still, there are days of sheer love when I look at my husband and family and remember everything we were before this disease and everything we still are. On my hardest days, my family keeps me going. I'm not alone. This vasculitis community I've met online and through support groups has become my friends and my lifelines. And then call to action about the VF supporting her and her husband. And you can give if you want this month. So quick review. Well, a couple things. Our day of sharing is May 7th. I'm putting this in the chat. If you have questions or want to share your story with me, that's my email address. If you don't have social media and you still want to share your story, please email it to me. I'm happy to share it for you. At the VF on May 7th and beyond throughout the month, we're going to try to share as many of these stories as we can. The templates remind you of this, but if you can use the hashtag VAM2024 when you share your story. And it can be in any language, it can be a video, it can be written. You can use the templates exactly, or you can sort of make your own thing or do a combination of both.